because I think
Sure.
great, Eileen. There we go. I think sometimes I know when I'm on my phone, I forget. Like we know in Zoom, it goes to the person or the noise that tends to be the strongest. But we are so glad y'all are here tonight. Tonight is another presentation from our core transition team, and particularly in relationship to governance. And there's some really amazing things that are happening. So to start off tonight, I wanted to start just a little bit different than we have in the last two. One of my favorite poets is John O'Donohue, if any of y'all are familiar with John. But he writes in his book, The Bless the Space Between Us. And this is a poem that's a reflection on a new position. And I feel like it's very transferable in understanding as we talk about a new governance, to just consider some of the thoughts he has, and then I'll open us in prayer. It says, may your new work excite your heart, kindle in your mind a creativity to journey beyond the old limits of all that has become wearisome. May this work challenge you toward new frontiers that will emerge as you begin to approach them, calling forth from you the full force and depth of your undiscovered gifts. May the work fit the rhythms of your soul, enable you to draw from the invisible new ideas and a vision that will inspire. Remember to be kind to those who work for you and with you. Endeavor to remain aware of the quiet world that lives behind each and every face. Be fair in your expectations, compassionate in your criticism. May you have the grace of encouragement to awaken the gift in the other's heart, building in them the confidence to follow the call of the gift. May you come to know that work which emerges from the mind of love will have the beauty and form. May this new work be worthy of the energy of your heart and the light of your thought. And may your work assume a proper space in your life. Instead of owning or using you, may it challenge and refine you, bringing you every day further into the wonder of your heart. So friends, let us pray. Compassionate Spirit, as we gather tonight, open our hearts, our minds, our eyes, our ears, our very beings to hear, to listen, to consider, and to wonder together into this new paradigm of ministry, this new governance of ministry that we call the Presbytery of Coastlands. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So a few logistical pieces is, if this is your first time to join, I ask everyone to use, if you have questions, you'll look at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There is a reactions button. And if you click on that, there's a raise hand electronically. We're asking everyone to do that because what that does is place you in an order of your question that I can see, as opposed to me having to navigate looking on the screen to figure out who's next in order. So I would ask you do that. If there's more than one on a screen, I may clarify, because if one has spoken, I want to make sure we hear from everybody. And so I will go to another person to be called on in that time so that everybody does have their voice in the room. I would invite everyone to be aware not only of what they're sharing or their concern, but that there are others who will also be bringing ideas and thoughts to the place. And so it's a awareness of being concise in maybe our questions, and patience in that together as a group, we're raising questions and things from that. If you're able to, I would ask, and I did hear from Chris, but I would ask that if you can, if you do have the capacity to turn on your video to ask the question. That's just a person-to-person piece. It's really hard to hear a question that comes through just on a name on a screen, and it makes it a little more personal to interact together face-to-face. So if you don't have your screen on during the presentation, that's fine. If you have a question and you are able to come off and to actually make your presence known to ask that question, I would just request that from you. And I would invite you in this time, in this space, as you hear what I consider some brilliant ideas from our governance piece, that you also really wander into and consider, what is speaking to me? Where do I get those sparks of excitement that I do with ministry? You know, whether I'm an elder or a pastor, where are those sparks? And where might I begin to start leaning into as Coastlands Presbytery starts to take formation in these concepts of governance? So with that, I will call upon Kathy and Wendy, who are going to make our presentation for governance. And then we'll, as I understand, we'll open it up for questions after the presentation. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So it is all y'all's.
Thank you, Dana, for
Are we
that.
good to share? I just want to make sure. Are we able to share our screen, Eileen?
I made you guys co-hosts,
Oh,
so
great.
you
Thank
should be able to share.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
you.
As I said, I really want to thank Dee for reading that poem and her words of encouragement and excitement, and for each of us to keep our hearts and minds open to what new opportunities may be presented to us and be presented to others in our congregation. If you see some of these new ideas we're bringing, you may think, oh, wow, that person would be great. Keep that person in mind. And we'll just see where the Spirit leads us. Let me introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy Starzer-Farrell. I'm an elder at Trinity in East Brunswick. And I've been involved in the core transition team since the beginning, along with two of our 3 committee members, Wendy Williams and Sue Smith. We're also joined by Gary Filson, who's pastor in Jamesburg. And for the last few weeks, and she's been on board, Dee Cooper has been helping us tremendously. We've only been meeting since the beginning of November, and so we really had to hit the ground running. We hit a little bit of stumbles along the way, but hopefully what we're going to be presenting tonight, you'll feel some enthusiasm for it and excitement. And I think I'll turn it over to Wendy now for the next portion.
Okay. Going to bring us into screen share. Oh. Here you go. Thank you, Kathy. And just again, my name is Wendy Werner, and I am the pastor over at the Dayton Church, which is part of South Brunswick. I've been part of the core team from the beginning, and before that was part of the group that brought the proposal forward to the Presbytery about us becoming missional communities. We're grateful to have this chance to be able to talk to you all today about our ideas in and around governance for our new shared presbytery. So through all of our discernment, we were inspired to create a structure that was a reflection of the shape of the cross, as a reminder that we are the body of Christ and each one of us is a part of it. And this is a diagram of the structure. Now, I know that often, as soon as you introduce a diagram, people kind of jump all over it, make assumptions, and our hope this evening is that you'll give us a chance to kind of let this unfold in front of you, and then we'll take questions kind of at the end. This diagram was put together to be in partnership with what we've heard from the staffing and structure group, and so it's actually color-coded. What you see, and there's a key that's on there, what you see that appears in blue would be representative of what would be resourced by the co-leader of the presbytery that's really charged with administrative pieces. What you see that's color-coded in yellow, these are groups that would be resourced by the relational co-leader. And everything that appears in blue, we would just, that appears in purple, that's going to be resourced by the stated clerk. Anything that is a rectangle A rectangle is something that will need to be fully nominated and elected. Anything that is a square can be a group that anyone is a part of. And I should also say that if the one thing that appears in green, yellow and blue make green, and so that's where our co-leaders would both be, right? So that's the whole of the vision. All right, Kathy.
Sitting on top of our cross, we like to think of it. Oh, you did find a crown.
I did. That's for you. I put the crown in for you.
Sitting at the top of our cross is our Committee on Representation. We're really looking at this as, even though it's been in the Book of Order and we've all had committees on representation, we're really looking at this to be a newer concept on how we want to look at our overall values, how it'll represent us, and everything will flow down from that in so many ways. The Committee on Representation, it'll hold us accountable for all the standing committees and commissions, and they'll ensure we have rich diversity represented in these different groups. We're really looking for full participation on the teaching and ruling elder side. We want a lot of people involved, and this is going to be their job to really, at least initially, their main goal is to get the nominations for the different committees. In the Book of Order, the Committee on Representation is charged with guiding the nominating committee, with sending them recommendations for nominations, or basically putting their blessing on them. But we feel it would be much more efficient and a better use of their resources and training to have them take on the role of nominating. But this will not be their only job. They're going to be facilitating diversity and inclusivity training, and also help us with bias awareness. Now, we see this as being an exciting group to be part of.
Thanks, Kathy.
Move on to the next one.
Yeah. So we have here the Commission on Ministry and the Commission on Preparation for Ministries. We envision these groups as functioning as the arms of the cross on either side. Currently, it's in the work language in and around how each of these groups is looking to be structured and how many people that it needs. So those pieces are currently in conversation. And we hope to bring them forward at a later time when the administrative manual is ready to go in front of the Presbytery. But we do recommend that both these groups continue forward in commission status as they currently are. So not much more to say about them right now, other than here they are on our cross.
One of the biggest challenges and biggest decisions the governance team had to make in their model was to decide if we were going to be a bicameral or unicameral system. Unicameral, of course, would be the combination of trustee and council together, where one group would be doing the functioning of both, and bicameral would have them as separate entities. We've received feedback from Standards and Training, which was leaning more toward a unicameral route, unicameral model. But the Board of Trustees was really feeling that their skills and talents and interests were as trustees, and they felt they were not equipped to be to also serve as council. Based on this and other feelings and just the volume of work and what we would like to see from the council and the trustees, we felt the best system, the best government model would be the bicameral system. It'll help us facilitate both the work of the trustees and also the visioning and administration of our body.
I'd also just want to share, thank you, Kathy. I'd also just want to share as we explored what different presbyteries are doing across the nation. Those presbyteries, many of them that have gone with the unicameral system, have also needed to adopt an administrative commission to be able to facilitate a lot of the trustees' work because there's just so much work to do. So that's that.
Right, it's whatever the name is, whether it's administrative committee or council, we just felt that it needed to be bicameral and be separated. Most of you are familiar with the responsibilities of the Board of Trustees, so I won't go through them in detail here. They'll be doing all those things. So they will be busy. We also always know that there's going to be new challenges that pop up with the Board of Trustees. Within the last month or so, we were hit with information on the lawsuits with the Boy Scouts of America. That gets handled by trustees. So we know they're always going to have plenty of work and areas where they really need to focus and their experience and their energy. The council, we're seeing to do a lot of responsible for a lot of the visioning. They're going to be helping to define and discern the mission of our new presbytery. The core team for quite a while was looking at what should be our mission. And then we realized we were looking at what would be the mission of the core team. And any mission that we would be having, that we would be setting for the Presbytery of the Coastlands right now, could very easily change and should be changing, should be evolving as we're evolving as a new presbytery. But the council will be responsible for discerning the mission and helping us to helping to guide us through that and interpret the mission and apply it. They'll be acting on behalf of the presbytery as defined in the administration manual, which is a pretty living document right now. They're also going to be nominating candidates for the Committee on Representation. That's the crown piece you saw in the beginning. And they'll be ensuring the clear communications about the work of the presbytery. They'll be helping to form working groups and committees and discerning and communicating priorities that shape the work of the presbytery. They'll hear proposals and make proposals with the Board of Trustees. They'll be giving shape and organizing the presbytery meetings, of course, including the docket and preparation. And this will be in coordination with the worship team, and we'll get into them a little bit later on. And they'll also have some emergency powers if they need to, emergency authority and power if they need to take certain steps during the presbytery meeting. You can go to the next slide.
Okay. So this is an idea, frankly, that came to us after there were a bunch of folks from within our new presbytery that were invited to sit down with Jan Edmondson, former co-moderator of the General Assembly and current presbytery executive of Charlotte Presbytery, which is, I think, the second biggest presbytery in the nation. She visited with us to talk a little bit. First, we were talking about COM structure, but then conversation turned to kind of the overall structure of the Charlotte Presbytery. This is a group that they used, and frankly, we just kind of stole this idea and tailor-made it to ourselves. We're calling this the Ministry Resource Committee. And if we see the council and the trustees kind of sitting as the heart of the cross, this is nestled immediately underneath that. The whole idea of this group is that it's structured to build relationships and strengthen congregations and specialized ministry around our shared vision of the presbytery. It's going to offer resources and support This, should we have grant money available, this is where you can go to be able to apply for it. This is where you might be able to go to learn about other funding that's available, perhaps training and coaching in and around all of our priorities. If there are new worshiping communities that might be formed, they're really going to be encouraged by this particular group. You know, this is really envisioned as a primary equipping piece for all of us in the Presbytery, but in particular for ruling elders. Other ministries that we might consider to be housed under this piece could be, and we haven't made hard and fast decisions about this, but we know that former Monmouth had a resource center that it felt was a big priority for them. This is something that could be housed under this group. Eventually, if we could return to equipping the saints, there's a possibility of Bethany House of Hospitality could come under this group, and also the Vital Congregations Initiative. So all things, this is really kind of the big resource team of the Presbytery.
You'll see there's some additional boxes on this diagram, and some of them are not rectangulars. Maybe they should be. The first one at the top is the response coordinating team. This is a group that's required by the sexual harassment policy. And that would feed into the Commission on Ministry. The next group that we have is the worship team. I think you've all appreciated the quality of worship at our Presbytery meeting that's been organized through the worship pedal team that was formed at the beginning of the year. And we're going to have something similar to that to help council plan the worship and actually maybe recruit the people that are going to be doing the music or preach, once a theme has been determined by council, but they'll help facilitate organizing the worship. And then we also have the urban ministry group, which, as Wendy mentioned, will probably feed into the ministry resource committee. We also have on the lower left-hand side, administrative commission. This is a group that we're going to propose to feed in and support the trustees. They'll be specifically trained to help manage church closings. Instead of having a different AC nominated and elected whenever a new church is closing, this would be a dedicated group that will have the skills, the checklists, the know-how. They'll be able to do it more efficiently, and it'll be easier for the Presbytery, and it will be easier for the congregations to have this dedicated group. Okay.
So this is a piece that would really make us very different from a lot of other presbyteries, is that we're including what we're currently calling a round table. And the round table really sits at the head of the cross. This has emerged for two different reasons. One is interest in, if we're committing to a co-leader model, wanting to make sure that things remain moving forward in a fair and balanced manner, considering that one leader would be resourcing one group of people and one another. The other thing that really pushed this particular idea of a roundtable is that so often in Presbytery, all of our different committees and commissions, they get focused on their own work, right? We get siloed, and we very easily kind of lose sight of the greater whole, outside of a Presbytery meeting, which is so often driven by the business of the moment. So the roundtable idea is really an idea about making sure that all voices are heard amongst the leadership. This is not, this doesn't require additional nominations. You get to be part of the roundtable if you are a chair of certain committees and commissions. And everywhere you see on here that has a blue line, those are the people that get to go to the roundtable. It's a gathering place for leadership so that everybody can benefit from the greater whole. Its scope and its authority are limited to the following things: that it would receive reports from chairs and the trustee presidents on the work of the presbytery in and around all the business, right? Doesn't have to go into great depth, but for one group to be able to hold the knowledge and be informed by, you know, where do we have vacant pulpits and other matters, and where are specialized ministries, what's happening there, where are vacancies within committees and commissions, all these things that you have listed in front of you. More than anything, this is a group that should hold up all the celebrations and concerns of our wider presbytery in prayer. If there is to be a change in our administrative manual before it goes to presbytery as a whole, you know, and instead of it being simply a work of the council or work of trustees or anybody else, it has to go to the round table so that every leader has an opportunity to kind of weigh in and inform everybody about what's happening within their piece. And if there's going to be a change to the permanent or short-term staffing plan in the admin manual, that also needs to go to the round table. It's our vision right now that this is a group that would meet at least 3 times a year. So these are the groups that get a seat at the table. They would include the chair of the Committee on Representation, the Committee on Preparation for Ministry, COM, the Ministry Resource Committee, the Personnel Committee, and President of the Board of Trustees.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a bottle. My neighbor.
And then we realized we didn't have a slide for the Personnel Committee and the Permanent Judicial Commission, because we know what those folks do. But we just want to point out that these groups sit at the bottom of the cross, providing strength and balance through our established system of accountability.
You will have noticed down at the bottom of the cross, we had some a space for working groups and task force, and we're differentiating between the two of them, where the working group is representative. I'm having a visual migraine right now, so I really can't see that well. Sorry about that. It's a self-determined group of individuals, and we'll have at least 2 ruling and 2 teaching elders in each group. And they'll submit to the council its focus and objectives for informational purposes only, and also for budgetary requests or referrals to the trustees. And what we see them working fairly independently. And in that area, we would have the social justice, bills and overtures, and Presbyterian women. There's still some discussion if bills and overtures will be here or if it needs to be an elected group. That's we're still working on that, examining that within the governance team, but that should not hold up our moving forward with everything else. And the task forces are have a specific purpose and a limited duration, and once they're done, they're done. Task forces do not need to be comprised of ruling elders and teaching elders, and this would be a good area to get maybe some deacons or other members of our congregations that have a very specific gift, but haven't been called to any type of ordination to be able to share that gift. And this will be an interesting one. one for us to be looking at sourcing these different task forces.
Yeah, it's the same with the working group too, Kathy. So that even if while we need elders of both kinds on there, the truth is that even if you haven't been ordained as an elder or a pastor, that you would have an opportunity to serve in both of these groups. Kathy's exactly right. You know, where are places that deacons might be able to get involved in things. So these are those pieces.
I think that is our last slide.
I think so. I was going to just share one more time, if I may, just the graphic, just so we have an opportunity to see it one more time.
Right, a little bit bigger. Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
And I think we can open it up for questions now. You want to handle that?
If I first of all, thank you to y'all and to governance. This is, you know, for the presentation. Kathy, I heard about the visual migraine. So if there's anything we can do to be supportive of you in the midst of that, please let us know. I'm sorry you're struggling with that. Peggy Redmond in the chat asks, the roundtable sounds like a great idea. How will this business be shared with all the people in the Presbytery?
Well, any of these substantive changes that would go to the round table will ultimately find their way to the Presbytery, right? We can't make a change to the admin manual or to the staffing without Presbytery as a whole hearing that. So the vision, I think, is that once the round table has an opportunity to weigh in, to decide what it is that they're going to bring forward, then they would bring up a report to the entirety of the Presbytery, so that everyone is informed by the greater whole.
Or it could get filtered into one of the other committees or commissions to bring it to Presbytery. And we just feel it's a good place for people to share ideas, thoughts, and not be working in a vacuum or a silo.
Okay. Are there other questions? Excuse me. Other questions or comments, or please use your electronic hand. And I'm seeing, I think, Catherine. And Catherine, you're muted too. So there we go.
Oh, okay. Just on the very last item concerning the task forces, there was, the description was in the passive tense, I think, will be established. And I was just wondering by whom, or how the limits, how you imagine the limits would be set up, or is that still vague?
I would say part of the responsibility, I think when we talked about the council responsibilities, that's something that the council would help to set up. That if there are a group of folks that were interested in forming some type of a working group, they would go to the council for some support, and that would be kind of the line. At least that's the thinking right now, Kathy. That would be the line of being able to establish things.
Thank you.
And Mike has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. So I'm on two pedal teams right now, Justice and Outreach, and the second one is Relationship Building. Looking at this governance structure that was presented this evening, it looks like you've taken the recommendation of our Justice team and kept it as a ongoing, forward-looking, live group of people as a working group. And then looking at Relationship Building, it looks like the functions or the interests of the relationship building pedal team would be dispersed throughout many different functions of the Presbytery, based on what I saw this evening. And this is something that's going to happen in just a couple of months. So is that an accurate type of analysis? And I guess would that apply for other pedal teams? If they look at this graph and they look at the work they're doing now, they can kind of have an idea whether they would continue as a distinct group or whether their work would then end as a team and that functionality would find a different home.
Thanks for the question, Mike. I want you to know we've been really intentional on the core team to ask everybody that's heading up a pedal team whether or not that they had a vision of pedal teams moving forward. And a lot of times it has kind of morphed into, with some of the relationship building has kind of fed into what's happening in COM. But a lot of the pedal teams, frankly, their work gets kind of folded into the work of the ministry resource team, which is very much in and around relationships. And so that work, which has been so valuable so far, Mike, certainly will be carried on. It's just going to be housed, not necessarily dispersed all through, but particularly in that ministry resource team. I think that's our hope of where the heart on relationship building will end up for sure.
Thank you.
And if I can clarify too, Mike, because I heard you say in 2 months, then, we'll be in this new system. I think as we are assessing that our house isn't completely built to move into straight away on that February 28th. There's going to be a time of transitioning, and that may be in layers to move into that house. But I don't think it's going to be a February 28th, everything stops, and then we just start with a brand new system. I don't think we'll have the pieces in place to have that occur. So some of this may be tandem in how it unfolds.
Thank you, Dee.
Yeah. And I'm going to say it right. I hope this time. Is it busy? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, you said it right.
Oh, good.
My question is communication. I am very particular about communication because that has been a failure in the past. And I'm just wondering if I listened to everything, but I didn't see a particular place where it is stated where the dissemination of information to the entire presbytery would happen, unless I missed it. Thank you.
Thanks, BC. We've served together, you and Kathy and I, on communications as well. And so what we've heard from the communications team is that they don't necessarily think that they need to continue as a team as we have been doing. I think that within some of what staffing and structure has presented, that there is another, the vision is that the communication piece is going to be handed, at least right now, off to some staff folks. If we see in the future that there's a need to kind of resurrect what we've been doing, we might return to it. But the feedback we've received is, let's move it into a staff position, at least for the moment. But I understand how we're all sensitive about communication and certainly wanting to do better about that. But that's the feedback that we got at the core team about the future of communications and what we're hoping for out of this new staffing model.
Okay, thanks.
There's a question in the chat that said, could a task force team be created for communication or publicity or education?
It could. I would love to know who those people are. So if you have an idea, let us know immediately.
Other questions or wonderings or clarity or? Yes, and I'm not sure, is it Isabel? Is that, I just see your, I think a combination.
My name is Isa. I'm from the Witherspoon Street Presbyterian Church.
Okay, Isa, welcome.
How are you? And Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you.
I'm the one who put the question up because when you were talking about the task force teams, a communication task force team would probably be very effective, I think. Because it could be split in different, churches. I mean, it's not so that and then they would meet to convene with what they have, and that's how your information would be disseminated. It's something I believe we don't have enough of. Enough communication, publicity is what I call it, but my women say, no, we shouldn't call it publicity. So communication and education disseminated in an even way, so everybody sort of is informed enough, for little things. It's just a suggestion.
It's a fabulous suggestion.
Mm.
Really wonderful. And I love the idea of it being a group that, that folks can
Task
join.
force.
Right?
Mhm,
Sure. So thank you for that. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Joyce.
Hi, I want to affirm the idea of having an administrative commission for closing churches. I'm moderating one now that has all of 3 people on it, and I like to think the 3 of us are individually fabulous and work well together. But this takes a lot of very cool, specific knowledge, none of which any of us had coming into this job. And we feel a little bit like we're making it up together with some good advice from folks. So I love the idea of there not being individual administrative commissions for this, and one that would be well-trained and able to advise people working with this. So thanks for that idea.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce. I think in all of our conversations, we'd love to get past that sense of reinventing the wheel, right? Every time it comes up. So what a wonderful thing it would be to have a group of 4 or 5 people with all the training that could just step right in and to do this wonderful work that you and some others are currently doing. So thank you.
Are there others? Burning questions. Deep insights. Profound words of knowledge that must be spoken tonight.
Putting a lot of pressure on everyone, Dee.
I know. Or you just want to say burr because it's cold outside.
I just want to say thank you to Wendy and Kathy, because even I understood what you put up. That's saying a lot. So thank you.
We're not going to let you dismiss yourself that way, Eileen. But I do agree and concur. Just seeing the governance group and seeing what they've accomplished since November is very remarkable. And this illustration, I think, was very helpful for us all to really understand conceptually what's being presented.
I just unmuted myself. Can I have a copy of that? Can you guys send me a copy of those charts?
I think they're selling them for $20 each. That'll go to a communications fund.
Okay, I'll use a Presbytery credit card. Yeah, I just would like to have them on file.
Eileen, we're happy to, put the email over to you, the PowerPoint slides, so that people can be able to see them. I know that you're recording this and people can watch it. But if people want to be able to download the slides themselves, they could have it. And then for the purpose of we're talking about how to best share all of this with the wider Presbytery. We're so happy to be able to have this town hall to share it with you. So we'll be working also at some rationale and a way to publish this so the greater Presbytery has an opportunity to see it before we roll it out in front of everybody, for sure. But Eileen, I'll send that out to you this evening.
Thanks, Wendy.
I would offer just to put a little tag that this is the draft proposal, and so it doesn't get shared as this is what was decided, or because no decisions have been made yet, and that's not. They may be tweaks as it comes toward Presbytery. I
believe the big word that Davis used repeatedly was iterative. Right?
Yes, thank you.
I'll just I had a goal to not say that tonight because he used it enough last week. But.
He paid me to try to see if I could get you to say the word today.
I believe that.
So, Jean, I see your hand.
Sorry, just checking iterative off on my bingo card here. I'm sorry because I did miss the first 15 minutes of the meeting. Do we have a sense of a range of how many humans it would take to populate a governance structure like this? And I am sorry if I missed that.
That's a fair question. And we're trying to settle on the structure first, and then we're going to start talking about how many folks are peopling each group. You know, we have a recommendation from CPM about the number that they feel. COM number is still a little bit in flux. So we're certainly, I know Sue Smith took a look at everything and she was kind of adding, and she said, well, this is like 130 to 150 people, which sounds like a lot. It's less than an ordinary structure, I'll say, but it's a lot of bodies. So we would have to be developing priorities. As always, the hope is that people will feel inspired and feel like, you know, here's a place that I really feel like my gifts would be at home. So it sounds like a very daunting number for sure. I know.
Yeah, 100 plus sounds daunting. I was wondering if we could get something in the 50 to 80 range, but thanks for letting me know that that's still being worked on.
Well, and I also think in just a mentality for everybody is typically we're used to electing so many people for out of the 3 stages of our officer roles and pieces like that on committee places. And when you're talking about the number, you're talking about from day one, it feels like a significant amount. But as Wendy said, it's actually lower than most Presbytery organizational pieces. It may be that it has to be done in tandem, that you're building toward that as a fulfillment. But the hope is really considering, where is it I want to live in to this house that we're building, and where are places that I feel really called to serve? Because that's part of this being successful, is actually stepping in and leaning into moving into the house once it is there. David.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that this is a draft plan and schema for a governance organization. Can you say a bit about what your timeline is for getting this finalized and before Presbytery for a vote, if that's the way this goes?
I believe there is some conversation about putting this in front of Presbytery at the end of the month, but I'm not 100%. Dee, maybe you could help with that.
I had heard the concept was going to be put before Presbytery, but I did not hear that the specifics of the outline would be put before Presbytery at the end of the month. So I just want to double check that I'm hearing, because it's been several meetings that have. Kathy, is that?
I'm under the same impression too. I think maybe a little bit more details than you're thinking. We can discuss this tomorrow.
Yeah, so I guess the bottom line is we're not, and there is some conversation about bringing the staffing proposal and the structure to Presbytery at the end of the month. We're not ready to go with the administrative manual. We're working on all of that. Yeah, that's what I know, but I think we would have more information after Thursday, after the core team has an opportunity to meet and do some additional planning for the Presbytery meeting.
Thank you.
We'll have the overall structure, not all of the fine details.
And I'm just going to highlight Wendy put in the chat is she's going to send everything to Eileen and she'll send it out. If you'd like it sooner, to be sure to put your email in the chat so she could send it to you.
Does that include a copy of the copy of your session today? You would send a copy to me as well, because that's why my hand is up.
Yes, if you just put your email in the chat, then I'll send you everything.
Okay, thank you. I'll take my hand down.
Anything else, friends? I'm not seeing any. Could we do something just so radical in the Presbyterian Church that when we complete and we've hit that arc of completion, when there is nothing else that needs to be said, that we could actually end early? Well, I'm not seeing any, so I think I'm gonna declare that I think the questions have been exhausted. And again, I just want to reiterate, Kathy and Wendy, thank you. Thank you for your time. Sue's participation and Gary's informing this. Y'all have done some really, really wonderful work into the core transition team as they continue to bring forth these ideas to y'all of the work they've been doing. My invitation is continue listening to your heart. See the places that you think, wow, that's where I want to serve and that's where I can make a difference. Because it's you that's going to make the difference as we move forward into, we can have a great house, but if people aren't leaning in to actually be there to live, it's not going to be successful. We need you. So be thinking about that and praying about that.
I asked a question in the chat. When do we expect the application to go out for these positions? Because I think the sooner we start getting people to think about it and look at their schedules, it would be easier to get people.
I think that's great. And I apologize, I missed your question. I think it kind of got all of a sudden my chat flew. So thank you for bringing that back, BZ. As I understand process-wise, the administrative manual, once those details start to get ironed out, again, that'll be fluffing up. Nominating will then be receiving, once that gets approved, nominating will receive names to start filling those positions, because you can't really nominate people to positions they don't know what it is they're signing on to serve. So I think the process really will be for the Presbytery to affirm this is the direction we're going. The administrative manual then will follow with the specifics and details of what that looks like. And then nominating will start receiving names to fill those positions. Is that accurate for those who are listening? Okay. I always ask because sometimes Dee can say things that are really wacky and everybody's going, what? And no. Yeah. So I share stories about leading session meetings that I had a clerk of session who would lean down and pat me gently on my leg and say, you can't do that. And I'm always open to hearing that. So, okay. Well, friends, may God bless us all tonight. May you stay warm and may your toes and your fingers and your whole body be warm and cozy in the ways in which feel comforting and restful to you. Thank you for your time and your energy to come and to ask and to learn. And may God continue to bless us as we continue in this developmental stage. Appreciate you all and go in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.